We are living, my friends, through the greatest era of free exposure of all time in the history of the world. In the history of the world, individual small businesses or human beings have the ability to get free exposure, attention. You know, the single most important asset on earth, attention. Free. In this group, free attention in the single most flourishing market on earth. You can imagine the energy that I had in my body flying out here from Manhattan for this talk. I'm gonna talk to thousands of people who are in the best market in what they do, facing the next decade, during the most scaled, free attention platform in the history of marketing, all at the same time. And yet 98% of the people in this room won't actually do anything about it. All based on the fact that they are insecure of not getting enough likes or getting a negative comment from somebody. This is what's called a conundrum. My friends, let me help all of you that struggle with people that leave negative comments. I'm gonna make this very simple. You are upset when you post and someone says you're ugly, you're not smart, this is stupid, you should get off of this. Your friend texts you and say you look silly, you're not good on video, whatever it is. I just want you to think about this for a second. Somebody on the receiving end of your content in their feed decided to take their own time and leave a comment to tell you that you're not good. Think about this. You should not be upset for yourself. You should be upset for them. Could you imagine how miserable of a life it is that you are so hurting inside that you need to go find somebody else's content and leave a comment to hurt them, to drag them down to your pain? This is something you have to wrap your head around. It will change the paradigm of how you view this. We must leave this conference understanding this final truth, that the biggest growth in this industry around the world are from the individuals who are outproducing their competitors in social media content. Whatever your feelings are about these platforms, you don't like your kids are on it, you don't like TikTok, you don't like this, you think it's silly. The market does not care what your opinion is of these platforms. The market is just acting like the market. And we must take advantage of this. Look, my sister has gone through this journey. My sister has transitioned from being a teacher to being a stay-at-home mom to now being a real estate agent over the last 4 to 5 years. And so, you know, I'm her older brother, we're very close. I am who I am, so we spend a lot of time together on this. And I've watched her go through the ups and downs. In a post-COVID world, it was completely crazy, even during COVID. And then in a post-COVID world, there's a real correction. This is why I wanted to make such a big point of how everyone's so fortunate to be in this market. Good markets confuse people. There's a lot of people in this room who are actually not that great that are doing very solid. It's not because they're great, it's because the overall market's great. What do I think? I think that people need to take on accountability. I've again interacted with the real estate broker quite a bit in the last 15 years, and I'm dumbfounded by how everybody would rather blame the government or the market instead of blaming themselves. You know, what happens? When you lose, it's your fault. And that's okay. Being a commission-based human means that you're at higher risk for failure. One of the reasons this industry is so interesting to so many people is it's lucrative. When it's good, it's good. But you know, to me, what do I think? I think that's merit. I think that's the human game. As a matter of fact, a lot of people here are going to lose market share to the people that did raise their hands. The biggest thing that's been fascinating me in analyzing the market is how many experienced agents in here will lose business to far less experienced agents in here because the inexperienced agents are going to outflank them in marketing. And I don't think that they should blame TikTok for that. I think they should blame themselves.
So the opportunity is there, guys. It doesn't matter if you're new, if you can still achieve whatever you want to achieve.
I would argue it's never been better for new agents than it is now because of social media. Before social media, it was harder to build a book, right? How many people have been doing this for 15 years or more? Raise your hands. Raise it high. 15 or more. Please raise high. These people that have raised their hands, they know it was harder to break in 15 years ago. It's just so much easier, and I think people should take advantage of it. My concern is for the people that have been doing it for 15 years. I don't want them to lose market share because they are taking for granted that they have word of mouth. Social media is word of mouth at scale. This is a word of mouth business. This is a relationship business. To not use the pipes of social media to scale your word of mouth is crazy.
How would you do it to be more creative and not follow trends to stand out?
Are you posting at all?
That's where I'm struggling with.
Why don't you just follow trends?
Because I don't want to copy. I think a lot of agents here feel the same way. It's not just the fear.
So let me understand. Because you don't want to copy, you're just going to let everybody else get the business?
Yeah, true. Okay.
I have a better idea. Why don't you copy and get some of the business?
But how would you stand out?
You stand out because you're wearing a pink dress.
Okay.
You have to understand, you as a human being are already standing out because you're a different human being. You might say one word differently. You might have one different joke. One of the things I do, how many people here follow me? Raise your hands. Thank you. So a lot of you know, one of the things that make me, I love you back, brother. As a lot of you know, I talk about a lot of different things. I'm a very successful businessman who makes videos about going to garage sales and buying things for 50 cents and selling it for $2. All of us are different. You could talk about your history. Again, you can control your privacy or not, but good news, you'll love this, it's the truth. You're already different because you're just a different human being. You're also gonna have a listing that somebody else doesn't have. That already makes you different. The house is different. The apartment's different. The estate is different. Don't worry about that part. It's one of those silly things that doesn't mean anything. What most people are actually saying when they don't want to copy is they're sad they haven't started and they feel insecure that they have no followers. That's what you're really saying. Not maybe you, but I'm saying in general, right? The good news is, and I started with this in the beginning of the talk, it doesn't matter anymore how many followers you have. That game changed. Now it's about the individual piece of content. You could have 0 followers on TikTok and your first video could get 1 million views. That was unheard of for 10 years. The world's changed. It's now about the individual post, not about your followers, which should be huge for a lot of you because a lot of you didn't want to go on because your competitive broker has 10,000 and you're at 0 even though you're 10 times bigger than them and you were worried about the perception. That world doesn't exist anymore.
And I think when you go to sleep at night, a lot of people, you know what it is that you want.
You know.
But for some of those
You're
reasons,
scared.
you're scared.
You're scared of people's judgment.
Yeah, before you made it.
Yeah, you're scared of what people are going to think. Man, I pound on this. People are scared to take a financial step backwards for their happiness. It is almost unacceptable in almost all societies around the world, I get to travel a lot, to downsize your home. Sell your home or apartment and get a smaller one. That is like,
no.
Whereas for me, I've loved the last 20 years of my career where I do things and then do less versions of them because I need to save money for something. It's a very real thing for me. People are worried about what people perceive. You had a Lexus, now you have a Toyota. That's a problem.
It's down. Yeah.
Whereas for me, if we can ever eliminate that stigma in society, we will have a much happier world, because then people will do that, save dollars to be able to go after their dream. I can't be a singer and do open mics and not make money. I've got to keep being this corporate executive. Well, you don't have to if you can downsize. But then imagine people with families. I have incredible empathy. If you're a mother or father and you're the breadwinner to the organization, and you come home and now now that your kids have to share a room, who wants to come home and see their 7 and 4-year-old go from their own rooms and a nice backyard, and we're going to move to a neighborhood that might be not as nice, no backyard, and you're sharing a room? That is very challenging. The problem is, I think if someone is living unhappy, much bigger challenges are in front. Resentment, unhappiness, alcoholism, escapism, in all sorts of different ways that tend to lead to problems.
You must get a lot of emails though from people who have tried this, like gotten over, if you have this job and you're having this career progression and the ladder, but suddenly they take the step out. I guess you get those emails too with people thanking you for inspiring them to do that. Like, what do they say? The people that actually downsize their homes.
Let me give you one that will surprise everybody. You know which email is most important of all those? The one that failed on trying to do the other thing and email me and thank me, because they will never wonder what if. That's when I, watch this. See it?
Yeah.
That is when I knew I had something. When I was doing it. See, this is why I read my emails. I talk about things differently because I have a different communication style, but I talk about different things because I read my messages. So
you do it all yourself, I
do it all myself. I do it all because I need to synthesize it.
Yeah.
I can get data. My team can make it, but if my team presents it to me, they've looked at it first and vanillaed it down. I need to see it. I am surrounded, because of the career that I've built for myself, with very successful people in their 60s to 90s. That generation, a high percentage of them are deeply unhappy.
And why is that?
They burned bridges. They compromised their value systems.
For their success.
Correct. Money. Again, I want everybody here. I'm trying to make money. I want to buy the New York Jets. They're expensive. It's not the money part. It's that people were convinced that money would make them happy. Money's not the problem. The narrative is the problem. And that's why I'm passionate about changing the narrative. Doing what you love and living within the means of what that thing pays you, whether it's $50,000 or $50 million, is the game. You know how many people make $1 million a year very stressed right now because they overextended themselves? They bought a plane and a house and a second house and a third house and hard to get sneakers and watch, right? It's not about how much you make, it's how much you save. It's how you manage it. And most importantly, your relationship with it. And most importantly, your relationship with your own values and who you are. Money is not going to make you happier. It's just a proven fact at this point. We have to stop acting like it does.
When are you going to buy the New York Jets?
You want I'll leave you with a bomb. The realest answer, and I've never said this publicly, is...
Next week.
No, I wish. It's funny. I really believe it's going to happen, which is crazy because a million things have to happen besides even the insane wealth creation, which is going to be very hard. I hope it's as late as possible.
Yeah, because what's next?
Well, listen, I want to win a Super Bowl and all that. I'm excited to operate, but what I would say is if God came down and she or he said to me, how do you want it? I would say, give it to me with 10 years to live and let me get one Super Bowl in that window. Not because of anything else, but because the process of trying to get them is the great joy of my professional life. The thrill of the hunt is so much more fun than the kill.
Yeah, that's what you always realize when you stand there.
It's so real for me. It's so real for me.
Would you say that you felt like more happy when you've been in those real grind moments than in almost any other?
It's not even a comparison. I actually struggle with my notoriety. I'm in the point of my career where it's hard for me to do something and like universally everyone thinks it's not going to be successful. That's my favorite. I love when the world's against me. As a matter of fact, the NFT thing's pretty fun.
I was going to
I'm
say,
pretty
defense
happy.
must have had a lot of that.
Of course, but then it was so successful. But now NFTs as a macro has got pressure, and I'm like, this is good. I like it. So yeah.
Is there something that you believe that most others do not at all?
Yes, I believe nice guys finish first in business.
And
The world doesn't. Most people don't think there's a place, like they think you get run over.
no.
I think people that say, and by the way, here come the comments already. Gary, that's bullshit. I'm a nice guy. I actually love talking to people who claim that I'm wrong. When I talk to them for like 7 minutes, there's only two things that happen. 9 out of 10 of them have this one of two situations. One, they are so afraid of conflict.
With you?
In their scenarios.
Oh.
They're scared, they don't have the ability to be candorous. Thus, they get walked all over, but it's really on them because of their fear of being candorous. They're not authentic. And they fear conflict. And they can't be candorous. That is not the other person's fault. And believe it or not, I'm great as a public figure with candor, but I've had my struggles operating in my life. Or number two, they're manipulating. There's a lot of people who love to say they're nice. Do you know how many people try to do nice things for me? Gary, I see you're flying to Sweden. I'd love to pick you up at the airport and drive you to the hotel. I'm like, that's very, very nice. But what I know what that email is actually saying is, I'd like to pitch you my business or ask you for advice for 45 minutes after an 8-hour flight on the way to, and I'm very flattered, but let's call a spade a spade. That wasn't a kind act. That was an act grounded in, I'll do this because I want to ask you this. There's so many people that will do something for you with full intent of asking for something far greater on the other end. That's not kindness, that's manipulation. So I tell the nice guys and gals that don't believe in what I'm saying to really look inside themselves and understand, are you manipulating to an outcome you want? Are you lacking the ability to be candorous, thus rendering the other person to not even know what's happening because you're keeping it inside? Or are you actually finishing last as a nice guy? There's also this part. You may be nice, you also might not be talented. Like, and what does finishing first and last mean? My point of nice guys finish first is you will feel good about yourself. The universal answer to any of these questions is grounded in very hardcore self-awareness. The reason I'm so big on patience is, for a room like this, the thing that I always worry about is how healthy is their ambition and what is the fuel of their ambition. For me, as I've gotten older, I'm like, oh, the fuel of my ambition is like this beautiful mix of like gratitude and even like micro guilt that I had this perfect circumstance of mother, immigrant upbringing. It comes from such a place of like, fuck, I'm so happy, and like, whoa, so many people aren't, that like I'm like very inspired on a daily basis while I'm doing my thing to figure out ways to say something and change the perspective in some way that might help someone start to achieve more happiness. The other big revelation for me as I go through my journey is how many people's ambition is completely fueled by insecurity. And that's been really eye-opening for me, that people want to show their parents that didn't do the right thing, the girl or the guy or the system or like the town they came from, or like
where a lot of ambition comes from, right?
Yeah, and I actually think that's a problem.
It's unhealthy, that's what you meant by unhealthy.
It's not sustainable, right? It becomes not sustainable, and then very honestly, when you're able to use that to amass dollars, money doesn't change you, money exposes you. So if you're in a bad place and you like wanted to prove everyone wrong and then you got the money, then you're gonna spend that money on dumb shit. And so, my advice is, it's really funny, I don't think of myself as being in the advice business. I understand what I do. I view myself in here's observations, and I'm hopeful that whether you completely agree with it or completely disagree with it, that you're able to take it, process it through your self-awareness and reality, and see if you can extract value from it, whether you want to do it or completely run away from it. Because boy, oh boy, do I know a lot of people who make $47,000 a year that are really in solid places because they live a $38,000 a year lifestyle and they have a good sense of who they are and what makes them happy. And I know even more people who make $3 million a year, live a $4.9 million a year lifestyle, have no idea who they are or what makes them happy, and are completely swirling out of control.
What makes you happy?
What makes me happy is a couple things. On a selfless standpoint, Garyvee makes me happy. You know, leaving an impact on the world makes me very happy. I am very aware, and I'm a young man, I'm 47 years old. I live a life where more than 1,000 people a day reach out to me and say thank you for something that they didn't buy for me or I sold them, and that feels incredible. So that feels unbelievable. Selfishly, I love spending time with friends and family. You know,
That's not selfish.
yeah, I mean, I think the things, fair enough, but I think the things that like I love getting, you know, I love my hobbies. You know, like I really love the escapism of rooting for a team that sucks. I enjoy, like I really love garage sailing. I'm not kidding. It's amazing to me like how excited I am that it's like early March, because I'm like, couple more weeks, you know, so silly things like that. Probably the thing I enjoy the most is like, and I've done this since I was a 10-year-old child, I'm really good at doing what I want to do. The reason I got D's and F's was I wasn't even willing to put in the minimal effort to get C's and B's, because I was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
I'm really good at like having pure conviction, and but I'm willing to deal with the ramifications of my conviction. I think I'm very good at respecting the game more than wanting what I want. So like, I love entrepreneurship because I micro lose all the time. And I love that. So that, I'm just very grateful that I get to do what I get to do. And then I think what makes me happy is the luck of the draw of being the firstborn to very young parents. So I'm 47, my parents are 69 and 67. So just very grateful for that. You know, yeah, just like, you know, it's funny. I do a lot of things professionally. I'm a very high energy dude. I put out all sorts of content, I get it, but I'm extremely simple, like wildly simple.
Love it, great answer. So I've seen the garage sale thing, and I always thought that was really interesting. I remember going to garage sales as a kid myself. Is that where you think you maybe got the love from? Did you go to garage sales as a kid?
I did. That happened because there was a time and place where my content was like, hey, you know, I worked for 12 years at my dad's liquor store. I never made a lot of money, but I lived within my means, so I was able to have some savings. And then Twitter and Facebook and Tumblr came along and I invested that money into it, and you can too. And then I started getting emails like, fuck you, I don't $25,000 to invest in a startup. And I was like, and I started getting enough of that I was like, that's good, fine. I'll just go further back in my journey and I'll show you what I did when I had $0.00. And like, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday and went garage sailing, especially when eBay first came out. There was a supply, and no different than the way I talk about social media creative, which is like when there's a new platform that has enough attention on it, there's not enough content for it. So if you go there heavily and aggressively and you post organically, you're gonna get a lot more organic reach for no cost, and that's a land grab of attention. And that runs all the time between paid and organic. And because social is where so much of society is playing out, this is very important. Well, the same thing happened with Internet 1.0. So few people knew what was going on eBay. There was more people searching for stuff to buy because it was the first time collectors in the late 90s could find Pez dispensers or video games or comic books, not going to a big show or a store, but there wasn't as many people listing them. So everything was super valuable. Like you literally could make $1,000 garage selling with $80 every single Saturday if you were willing to put in the work. Obviously that market evolved, but it's still very true. I still believe to this day that the easiest, aka hard, but easier than other things, that the biggest opportunity for somebody who has $500 to their name is to buy and sell things in the arbitrage of the way society works between Poshmark and a thrift store and Craigslist and a garage sale and a pawn shop and eBay. And so I got motivated to make that content to help people, and like now it's super fun because my profile's grown, that content's done well. So now when I garage sale, 10 people that are actively garage selling as well somewhere in New Jersey roll up on me and tell me their stories, and it's really, yeah, I learned a lot in garage sales. I learned more in baseball cards shows, I would say. But then I started working for my dad's liquor store when I was 14, and just watching customers behind the register is definitely, watching customers at, you know, flea markets, watching customers at baseball card shows, watching customers in a liquor store really framed up my intuitive and skill around following attention and understanding what to put in front of it. One of the things that I'm fascinated by is humans' capacity to think humans are bad at scale. This is where media and information and the way the world works fascinates me. Humans are stunningly amazing. Of the 8 billion people that roam this earth, it is stunning how many are remarkable to at least neutral. Yet we are infatuated with paying attention to the 1% of the 1% of the 1% that are not. And so I'm very optimistic about human beings. I mean, do I think the robots eventually win and kill us? Maybe, but you know, like that's just not something that I can spend a whole lot of energy on. That's gonna happen one way or another, right? It's either gonna happen or it's not.